and emotion, and also the characteristics of emotion. Now, I need you to pay particular attention to it. Yeah. You need to know what the ABCs of the model is, what they stand for, and you need to know the different characteristics of a given emotion. Okay. That I'm just underlining that so that when we discuss it afterwards, you appreciate what I mean. Yeah. Okay. Now let me just what do you call the share screen. Yeah. Okay, can you see the screen, the PowerPoint slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Let me get this in a PowerPoint. Okay, good. We look at the nature of emotion and its physiological features. Yeah. Without the physiological features, you do not have emotion actually. Yeah. Okay, but we will look at that. And then of course, there's different theories, since I suppose the late 1800s, people have been, or even before that, but from a psychology point of view, it's about the late 1800s. They started to study emotion, but emotion has been studied by other disciplines a lot earlier, of course. You look at the ABCs, the ABC model, yeah, that's used by cognitive behavioral approach to study emotion, yeah, and also to help people overcome their emotional problems. We normally use the ABC model and understanding healthy and unhealthy emotions, because we want people to experience a wide range of emotions, yeah, but we don't want them to experience unhealthy, negative emotions. Now, what I'm trying to get you to do is start thinking about emotion in a little bit more sophisticated way. Yeah. Meaning there are emotions which are healthy but negative. Yeah. But there are also emotions which are unhealthy. Yeah. Negative but unhealthy. Yeah. So we want people to experience emotions which are negative but healthy. Yeah. So that we have a range. Yeah, I've had people who say to me, for instance, oh, given my life circumstance, the problems I've had, is it not okay for me to feel depressed like I am? Is it not natural to feel depressed? I would say no, it isn't natural for anybody to feel depressed. Yeah. It is not normal for people to feel depressed, or it's not normal for people to feel anxious, yeah, or unhealthy anger. Yeah, they're not normal emotions. Yeah, okay, they are abnormal. Yeah, a product of abnormal mental processing. But we'll come to that. Yeah, but I just want to emphasize that when we look at emotion, we need to be able to think of the emotion as, is this healthy emotion? Yeah. And how do we decide the particular emotion or particular emotion you are experiencing is healthy, yeah, okay, as opposed to unhealthy. So we need to be able to work that out by the time we finish this session. But if you can think in those terms, your quality of life will improve considerably, I assure you. Okay, emotions, quality of life, and healthcare, they're quite important. Yeah, in how it affects, yeah, our quality of life, and certainly how our patients respond. Yeah, we'll look at it a little bit. But what I'll do is take you through. I mean, these are pretty, normal. What most people will talk about when you talk about emotion. How it's expressed and all that kind of stuff. These are all pretty, you know, not not so critical for us for our purposes. Yeah. The experience and encounter we experience emotion and also encounter other people's emotion, that is on a daily basis. Emotions affect the quality of our lives. That's a given really. Yeah, when we say we are having a good quality of life, it usually reflects a good positive kind of experience of emotion. As healthcare professionals, we encounter, of course, emotion with, in all sorts of different areas, and certainly medical, any unit, when we break bad news to people and stuff like that, we always have to handle other people's emotion, and our work is always messy. You need to be prepared for it, and learn how to be in situations where it's very uncomfortable, but it's necessary, to go through with other people, and learning to handle it is important. How to react to in these situations is a skill that must be learned and mastered. And to be able to do that, we must understand the nature of emotions. What are emotions in a way? A happy disposition and positive emotions can contribute to patient satisfaction and help early recovery. It's a very powerful influence, really, in terms of what you call patients recovery and their evaluation of their experience of relating with professionals. Okay, it's the word, the source of I suppose, emotion is a Latin kind of roots, emoere, and means to excite, agitate, upset, move, or stir up. So notice it's all about agitation and excitement. It is the arousal, right? But really, we use the word today to also mean depressed feelings, sad feelings, and a whole host of other non-arousal kind of emotion, or they don't have physiological arousal to those kind of emotions. Generally defined as a manifestation of feeling that are evoked when we are confronted with a stimulus, usually associated with an important person, object, or event. It must be personally significant, for people to respond with emotion. Emotions are transient feelings that we experience as happening to us rather than being initiated by us. That's an interesting thought, because we say we experience this emotion, but we don't have control over it, but we just experience it. We don't initiate it, so to speak. But we'll look at that when we look at the ABC model. There can be positive or negative. That is, the emotion can be positive or negative, or more or less intense. They can be communicated to others through verbal and non-verbal means, facial expression, behaviors, as well as through language. But importantly, all these strong emotions, you cannot conceal them. I, for instance, sit in an interview and all that, people look as though they are very calm and relaxed, but really they are not. You can look at waist down for body leakage, meaning they can control their facial part of it, because they're not so they're quite comfortable to convey they're okay, but you find that the body leakage is important to notice. They can be communicated through verbal or in language. Others can be affected by emotional state, even when we try to hide them. Of course, we can't always what they call hide emotion in the way that we think. Chronic negative emotion may endanger health in two ways. People may be less concerned about health risks of smoking. I mean, if I'm depressed, miserable, unhappy, why would I worry about the problems of smoking or drinking or whatever else? It just won't make sense to me. Okay. Negative emotions may affect the cardiovascular and immune system directly. For example, people who show chronically high levels of hostility towards others are more likely to suffer from coronary heart disease. It's what we call hardening of the arteries. When somebody gets very angry, you'll see the arteries standing up. Okay, it's hardening of the arteries. And what we call people's personality influences their emotional experience as well. But we'll deal with that in a moment. I know it's just a general statement, but we'll deal with the details. People high in agreeableness and low in neuroticism. Agreeableness, neuroticism, extroversion, introversion, they are all dimensions of personality that in psychology people can measure. Yeah. Okay. They have tools to measure these things. What they're saying is people who are agreeable, that is people who are socially skilled, they get on with people, they're comfortable with other people, they can interact, relate well with others. They tend to be not so, I suppose, stressed, I guess, yeah. So they're likely to experience fewer negative emotions. Yeah. And likewise, people who are low in neuroticism. Neuroticism low means simply they are less worried. There are people who don't ruminate and worry too much. Yeah. Okay. So if you can get on with people, you don't worry too much. Yeah, of course, you will have good relationship with others, and therefore, yeah, your emotion won't be so negative and you won't be anxious or hostile, usually. Um, Certainly, breaking bad news, emotional healthcare professionals and the recipients affect what is heard and understood and how the recipients respond. Of course, we learn how to break bad news. Yeah, it is something that you have to develop. Yeah, and I hope you are getting to be able to get to some of the major concepts that we've discussed along the way. Yeah, how to listen, how to be with people, attending, and all those kind of stuff you have to put together. And some of the things that we're talking about today as well. Yeah. Emotions are also important in other consultations. These affect whether patients consult, what they say in consultation, and whether or not they adhere to your advice after consultation. In the sense that if you don't handle emotion well in the consultation, uh, they won't be satisfied. Yeah. So learning how to handle the patient's emotion is one of the important skills that you have to develop in order to foster a sense of being understood in the patient. How people think about or represent symptoms, diagnosis affect their emotional responses. This in turn affects how they cope and how well they recover or adapt. So it's clinicians should also ensure that they are not frightened of patients' distress and that they have the skills to listen, understand, and respond appropriately. Yeah. So it has to be handled in a way that you must be comfortable in yourself to be able to do it, so that you are with the other person who is distressed. Okay. Now we'll just cover couple of the old theories. I mean, I don't need you to understand this fully, but just to be aware that, even 1887, people like James Lang had a theory about emotion, who basically emphasized the importance of the physiology, yeah, okay, in emotion. Yeah. Though they also talked about the social context and behavior of others, but these early folks, they started to underline the importance of physiology, the release of adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine, yeah, create arousal in the central nervous system. These were the early people to talk in terms of how the autonomic nervous system played a role, yeah, in the experience of emotion. Cannon-Bach, yeah, theory of emotion also, states that stimulating events trigger feelings and physical reaction that occur at the same time. Here they're saying, the physiology is independent of the emotion. Yeah. What they're saying is the emotion can happen without the arousal, and the arousal can happen without the physiology. The emotion, if you like. So they're saying emotion and the arousal, yeah, are not, they appear to be together, but they're not really so connected in the sense that it can happen without the other. Their example is that seeing a snake might prompt the feeling of fear, an emotional response, and a racing heartbeat. physiological reaction. Cannon-Brock suggests that both these reactions occur simultaneously and independently. In other words, the physical reaction isn't dependent on the emotional reaction and vice versa. But I think in the early days, they were, I suppose, mixing arousal with emotion. Okay? When, for instance, you see a snake, you respond, and your physiology must respond. And that is necessary for your survival, and you will avoid the snake. Okay? And your blood pressure will be the first thing to go. To get you to move. Your blood pressure has to respond. Okay, so the autonomic nervous system has to get into gear quickly. But that happens because of your perception. You have to perceive a threat to be able to respond like that. They are almost built in. Okay. Now the interesting thing is that that is not emotion, really, is it? The fear, the sense of wow, that was whatever, and if you're overwhelmed by fear, that comes later. Okay, so you then put a label on to say, yes, that was fear. I'm still fearful of, whatever. Okay, but we've moved on from a lot more from the early theories, but they were the early people to debate and discuss and help us to form our views. And of course, Schechter and Singer, what do you call it? They developed what they call two-factor theory. They suggested the physiological change is necessary for emotion. The nature of emotion is experience. The emotional experience depends on interpretation of the arousal. So what they're saying is, one, you have the physiology, but you must have the cognitive appraisal, in order to experience the emotion. In response to feeling of arousal, we search the environment to identify the cause of our feelings. E.g., you can read that. If you meet somebody in the dark, and you're not anticipating, and this person is walking towards you, and your heart rate might go up, because you're perceiving a threat. Okay, and then you say, hey, I am afraid. That's fear. And if the person happens to be, a friend, it's different. Okay. So the interpretation of or how the circumstance, you will label it accordingly, and then that becomes the emotion. Emotions occur when physiological arousal causes us to search for reasons for this arousal. So in a way, Schechter and Singer were the early people to introduce the cognitive dimension to the experience of emotion. But the interesting thing also at that time in the 50s and 60s, there was a huge cognitive revolution in psychology. So we shouldn't be surprised. The cognitive was getting what you call its day, if you like, in terms of our formulation of our understanding of things like emotion. Before that, it wasn't so apparent. But until the 50s, emotions involve physiological changes and affect our thinking and action. Okay, notice, emotion, thinking, which is cognitive, and what they call actions, behaviors. Okay, those three things are important. Emotions are regulated by two parts of the autonomic nervous system: sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. Emotions involve three domains: affect, behavior, cognition. And of course, a characteristic feeling or subjective experience conveyed in the labels such as fear, anger, joy, or sadness. Okay, so we have to have the language. So we have to be able to label that experience. And the experience is obviously can be, so I'm just trying to say that if people don't have the use of language to label those emotions, then to them it doesn't exist. Yeah, they experience something, but they won't know how to express it because they have no idea how to put what words to apply to. A pattern of physiological arousal includes all the bodily changes that occur in emotions such as heart rate, breathing rate, blood pressure, sweating, and behavior actions associated with particular emotion, together with this, with action tendencies. Okay, what are action tendencies? Action tendencies are when you experience an emotion, yeah, you will have an urge. If the emotion is strong enough, yeah, you will experience an urge to act. Yeah, we don't always do it. Yeah, like for instance, if somebody is getting angry, yeah, they will start to get an urge to swear and curse, yeah, to use foul language. Yeah, okay, and most people won't use it. Yeah, they think it's in the head, but they don't express it. Yeah. But of course, other people not only experience it and express those verbal stuff, yeah, but they also can be behavioral. They'll act on it. They'll kick the door, chuck the what you call object or whatever. Yes. Okay. So those are behaviors, but the action tendency is the urge to do it. Yeah. Okay. They're not doing it, but they feel the urge to do it. Now, of course, the urge to hit or kick, but they don't do it, that's action tendency that goes with anger. But all the other emotions, like for instance, if somebody is severely depressed, yeah, they will also have action tendency, yeah, when they're severely depressed. But the action tendency will be very different. They will feel like hurting themselves. Yeah. Okay, harming themselves. That's the urge they feel. Yeah. Okay. And if somebody is very anxious, afraid, yeah, we'll talk in a moment again. I think you'll get the hang of it along the way. Yeah. So the characteristic cognitive processes associated with particular emotions are these. Yeah. Um, all emotions will have their characteristic cognitive behavioral features together with its action tendencies. Okay, I hope you can follow, and please stop and stop me if you're not clear. Yeah. All emotions must have its cognitive features. Yeah. So people who are somebody who is anxious will have a certain set of thought processes. They're different from somebody who's depressed or somebody who's angry. Yeah. There might be some overlap, but the core parts will be different. Yeah. So I can, for instance, by talking to the person about the way they feel, work out roughly what might be going on in their head. Yeah. And I can then get them to talk about those things. What's happening in their head? Yeah. What are the thoughts? Yeah. They are experiencing at that time. Yeah. And then I know then that emotion is, yeah, a particular emotion. Okay. So all emotions, yeah, will have behavioral components as well. Yeah. Like for instance, if somebody who is anxious, yeah, they'll have a certain behavioral component. Yeah, that anxious feeling. Remember when we're talking about people who've learned to become afraid of little spiders, when they're anxious, they want to avoid the tiny object because fear means avoiding the feared situation or object. Yeah. Okay. They will avoid. And I was saying to you how the avoidance by going up, getting themselves out of the situation, the anxiety comes down and they're negatively reinforcing that avoidance behavior. It's the same thing. Yeah. The fear means the action tendency will be to run in the opposite direction to the source of the fear. But we don't always do it. We stay in the same situation because we have learned how to handle that problem. Yeah. I'll give you an example. This is 3 weeks ago. I was hiking and I was very early and it was still reasonably dark, but light enough for me to hike. Anyway, uh, there was this narrow single path, and shrubs on bush and things and low, what they call foliage, both sides of the trail. Yeah. And then as I got to a point where I noticed a python going across. Yeah, okay, but I didn't see the head. It's gone across, but it was moving so slowly. I had to wait. Yeah, but I wasn't anxious or anything like that. I wasn't afraid. Yeah, but I waited for a while and said, "This is taking too long for my liking." I had to jump over it and move on. Yeah, okay. But normally, what most people will do is when they see something like that, they will the tendency or the behavior will be to avoid, yeah, to move away from that object. But because my cognition, I did not infer fear, yeah, my thoughts did not bring about anxiety, yeah, okay. My inferences was that yes, it's a snake, it's harmless to me, and yeah, my inference what is an inference? An inference is a suggestion, or if you like, a conclusion we make that goes way beyond available data. Yeah, meaning we kind of have a inference which will trigger certain sets of beliefs in our head. Yeah, my inference was that yes, that there is a risk. The inference I was making was that there is no real risk to me, yeah, at that time. Yeah. So my anxiety was noticeable. I was a little bit aroused, but I wasn't anxious. And I stood there for a while and jumped over it. I carried on. Yeah. And our friend slowly moved away. Yeah. Okay. Now, inferences are important for triggering certain sets of ideas in your head. Yeah. If I infer this is a poisonous snake, it'll, if there was a risk to me, I would have responded differently. Yeah. Okay. That is the inference you need. Action tendencies, you know what they are now. The urge to avoid or the urge to hate, depending on the emotion. Yeah, we'll come back to this. So when we talk about cognition, emotion in our modern day understanding, yeah, it is cognitive, behavioral, combined with the feeling. We can't separate it as we experience it. To learn and to teach, we can separate it. But really, when we experience it as one. Yeah. But of course, this is nothing new. Yeah. People who meditate and all that, they know how to deal with their emotion by focusing on the emotion. Yeah. And of course, modern day science, we say, yeah, we can focus on the emotion, but we can also bring about change by focusing on the behavior or the cognition, yeah, to modify the experience of emotion. Yeah. So this is the dynamic interactionism, if you like. Yeah, the cognition affect the emotion. Yeah, uh, emotion will affect the behavior. Behavior will affect the cognition. Like the person, for instance, who runs away from the fear of tiny little spider. Yeah. Okay. That's behavior, avoidance behavior. That avoidance behavior will fuel more emotion and cognition as well. Yeah. Okay. So the three, this is what we mean by dynamic interactionism. Cognition, emotion, and behavior, they influence one another in a dynamic way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The more your emotion increases because of your thinking, your cognition, yeah, the more the emotion will fuel the cognition. Okay. And they will affect the behavior will affect the emotion, and you'll just go on like that. Yeah. Okay. So the thinking will get more and more escalated, if you like. It gets worse, and the emotion will get a lot more stronger. Now, the key to our discussion this afternoon is this principle of philosophical roots. Yeah, Epictetus. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. The things that we talk about, people have been talking about it for a very, very long time. Yeah. The idea is that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Yeah. Okay, so things don't make you feel whatever. Yeah, yeah. So say for instance, when people say, oh, my manager made me angry. Yeah. This principle says people are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Yeah. Which is quite contrary. Yeah. Somebody who says, oh, so and so made me angry, or so and so situation made me angry, or the exam made me anxious. Yeah. They kind of get it. Well, why should they know differently? But that's what we normally, or most people will normally think. But people like Epictetus, even 500 BCE, were talking about no, that is a wrong way, wrong thing. Yeah, it is the way we perceive things or events that disturbs us. Yeah. So cognitive behavioral approaches adopt this philosophy, yeah, and they came up with people like Albert Ellis and who else, Aaron Beck. They all talked about the cognitive behavioral kind of therapies and stuff like that. Yeah, they adopted that philosophy into the model. Yeah. Okay. Now here you have ABC model. A simply stands for activating event. Yeah. B stands for belief, and C for consequences. I'll take you through each of them. Yeah. Please stop and ask questions if you feel, hey, I'm not sure what you're talking about. So do interrupt. Now, the C, consequences, are normally what people will present. Somebody will say to me, hey, Taras, I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or I become very angry. It's what we call an emotional C. Yeah. Okay. Let me just see. No, let me take it back first. No, let me just. How do I take this thing back? Yeah, sorry. No, I thought I had a slide that actually explained the activating event, but it's not there. But anyway, the activating event is actually anything that we focus on. Yeah. Anything, any event. You can focus on your childhood. Yeah. You can focus on your future. Yeah. You can focus on your heart rate or internal, yeah, whatever is happening within your body. Yeah. You can focus on your thought. Yeah. You can literally focus on anything that will become an activating event. Yeah. Okay. I can focus on the weather, and that's an activating event. Yeah. Okay. So anything we focus on can become an activating event. Yeah. So when people are disturbing themselves in some way, yeah, they're actually disturbing themselves about something. Yeah, whatever that about is an activating event. But we'll come to that. So activating event can be in the past, present, or future. Yeah. It can be actual or inferred. Yeah. I mentioned the word inference to you earlier. Yeah. Inference is simply forming conclusions way beyond available data. Yeah. Okay. For instance, you see me walking down the street. Yeah. And you think I noticed you, and I cross the road, and you think, oh, Aras is avoiding. That's an inference. Yeah. You don't have enough information or information to form that conclusion, but we do all the time, form that kind of conclusion. So anyway, the activating event, yeah, can be inferred or actual. Yeah, actual as something that actually happens. Yeah, I had an accident on the way to work. That's an actual thing. Yeah, okay. But the A can be also in the past, present, or future. Yeah, I can focus on the future and say whatever about it. Yeah, I can disturb myself about it. Now, the B is the belief. Yeah. Beliefs, we'll discuss that a little bit detail in a moment. But the C is the consequence. Yeah. The consequences are activating event, belief, and consequence. Now, when somebody says to me, or somebody say to me, someone says to me, my manager made me angry. Yeah. The manager's behavior, yeah, is the activating event. Make me angry is the C, emotional C. Anger is the emotional C. Yeah. Okay. The emotion I experience, anger, is the C in this model. Yeah. So the manager's behavior, my anger is the C. Now, they normally say A caused the C. Yeah. But from the philosophical basis we just looked at a moment ago, actually A doesn't cause the C, it's the B that leads to the C. Yeah, it's the way we perceive the A. Yeah, the A cannot cause the C. It's the way we perceive the A that leads to the C. And our perception, that is our cognitive processing of about the A, leads to the C. Yeah. So normally people will make AC connection. Yeah. But what we say is that we have to teach them to make the BC connection. If people don't understand this principle, that our emotion is usually caused by what's going on in our head, not what's happening out there, not by things or events. It's about it, but those things don't cause it. Yeah. Like for instance, a student becomes anxious about the forthcoming exam. Yeah. Okay. Others are looking forward to the exam because they think it's something that they're prepared for. Yeah. They're not anxious. If the A caused the C, everybody will be anxious. Yeah. But in this case, not everybody is anxious. Yeah. Only some individuals are anxious. That has to do with how these individuals perceive the A. Yeah. That is the ABC model. Okay. Uh, Now, like I said, the C can be emotional, behavioral, or cognitive. Yeah. Because the way the belief you hold about a certain event, yeah, about an A, has consequences. Yeah. Okay. And that consequence can be emotional. Yeah, like we become angry, anxious, depressed or whatever. Yeah. Or happy, it doesn't matter what emotions. Yeah. Or it can be behavioral. Like for instance, you're anxious about the exam, you don't come to class, you don't, see your lecturers and stuff like that. Those are behavioral consequences of a particular way of looking at the A. You know, Cognitive consequences are where some people, for instance, will say, "Oh, I'm not very good at doing exams and stuff like that," and that's a consequence of certain belief they hold about the A. Yeah, affects the way they think. Yeah. Okay, there can also be cognitive consequences. But for now, let's just stick with the emotional consequence so that you get the principles sorted. Yeah. Um, Now, the beliefs are important. Yeah. What the model says is the beliefs that lead to the consequence. Yeah. Okay. And that means A don't cause the C, it is the B that causes the C. Now, there are beliefs which are helpful and there are beliefs which are unhelpful. Yeah. Okay. Now, earlier I mentioned healthy negative emotion and unhealthy negative emotion. Now, here what we are looking at is irrational beliefs and rational beliefs. Yeah. You can get the hang of it, I'm sure, when you start thinking irrational beliefs lead to consequences, emotional consequences, which are unhealthy. Yeah, which is depression, anxiety, unhealthy anger, shame, guilt, and so on. Yeah. Okay, and envy. Yeah. Okay. I'll just take you through the core. Now, people like Albert Ellis said, yeah, in any emotional disturbance, anybody who is emotionally disturbing themselves, you will see these beliefs. Yeah, they are likely to be there. Yeah. Okay. Say for instance, somebody who's depressing herself. Yeah. When you talk to her and assess what's going on in her life circumstance, she'll be telling you things like, or he will be saying things like, "Why did that happen?" Yeah. Why did that happen to me? Why me? Yeah. Or they'll say other people, they should not have. Yeah. But what you'll notice is the demand that they're making. Yeah. The demand they're making is that what happened should not have happened. Yeah. Their thinking is very rigid and it's dogmatic. Yeah. They use words like should, must, ought to. Yeah. A student who's anxious about her forthcoming exam is likely to be thinking, I got to pass my exam. Yeah, I have to. Yeah, of course, they want to pass the exam. It's good to want to pass the exam, but dogmatic demands, there's no law which says you will pass the exam. Yeah. If I hold my pen up, yeah, and drop it, yeah, and let go, it will drop. Yeah, there is a physical law which says gravity. Yeah, it will come down. Yeah, but it doesn't work like that. Yeah, in our social life. Yeah, just because I demand I must pass my exam, it doesn't mean it will happen. Yeah. Okay, but people do that. But when they do that, they disturb themselves. Yeah. So when we talk about demands as irrational beliefs, demands are dogmatic, rigid, yeah, unrealistic in the expectations. Yeah. Okay. Now, when people are demanding, they start awfulizing. Yeah. Awfulizing is when they start using words like it's terrible, it's awful, it's horrible, gutted. Yeah. Okay. They demand that something that shouldn't happen has happened. Yeah. They demand it shouldn't have happened. Yeah. But it's happened. But they say it's terrible that people behave like that or things like that happen. Yeah. It's awful. But when somebody is awfulizing or using words like horrible or gutted, they're not applying a rational, healthy scale in their head. In life, yeah, things cannot be 100% bad. They're usually 99% bad. Yeah. Never 100% bad. Because they can always be, whatever that happens to us can always be worse. Yeah. Okay. So it is bad. Bad things can happen. Yeah. But it's usually 98%. Yeah. But never 100. The bad ones, I mean. Yeah. But mostly it's never anywhere near even registering. But what I'm saying is that for people who are offline using words like terrible, awful, horrible, gutted, they're actually starting from 101 to infinity. So the scale they're using is off planet Earth. Yeah, they're way off. Yeah, they're not realistic in the scale they use. So we need to help them to bring them to use a scale which is helpful for them, which is not to 100, but nothing is ever so bad as to be around 98. Yeah. Okay. So they demand something that has happened, shouldn't have happened. They say it's horrible, it's terrible. Yeah. They're awfulizing about it. Yeah. And then they said, I can't stand the thought. Yeah. A student who demands that she must pass the exam, got to pass the exam. It'll be awful, it'll be terrible if I fail the exam. Yeah. And I can't stand it, she will say, the low frustration tolerance. I cannot bear the thought of not passing the exam. Yeah. Okay. Thinking like that will, of course, make you a lot more anxious. But of course, not only do they say they have to, they got to pass, it'll be horrible, terrible, and then they can't stand the thought of not passing, but they'll start saying, me, if I fail the exam, I am a failure and undeserving, unworthy as a person. Yeah. Okay, they put themselves down. Yeah. Okay, so failing an exam doesn't equate being unworthy or failure as a person. Yeah. Okay. Your performance was poor. Yeah, because you didn't prepare for it or didn't work well at it, didn't attend classes. But you as a person cannot be a failure. Yeah. Okay. But they will globally rate themselves as a failure. Okay. Now, these are the irrational beliefs. Of course, if you have irrational belief, you also have rational beliefs. Rational beliefs are what we call the opposite of irrational beliefs. And instead of dogmatic demands, we have preferences. Yes, it's good to want to pass your exam, and it's good to, want to be doing well. It's good to want to be, hey, very rich and, stuff like that. Nothing wrong with it. You can want to be whatever, as long as it's not dogmatic, rigid, yeah, okay, inflexible types, yeah, okay. Now, I would like to pass the forthcoming exam, and if I don't, yeah, pass it, yeah, it's a preference. I would like to pass it. But if I don't, yeah, it will be bad, yeah. But it won't be the end of the world scenario. Yeah, but you recognize that it is not good. Yeah, it will be bad. Yeah, but I can tolerate it. Yeah, I can handle. I know how to recover. Yeah, if I don't. But of course, your preference is that you want to pass and you work for it. And if, in spite of all the effort you put in to prepare for it, you didn't pass. Yeah, you say, yeah, that was bad. Yeah. But it wasn't awful or terrible or cut it or whatever. Yeah. Okay. It was bad. You recognize that and you say, I can tolerate it and I can recover it. I know what to do. But that the fact that I failed it doesn't make me a failure as a person. Yeah. That is important. Yeah. Okay. I accept myself as a fallible human being. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't rate myself. Yeah. I rate my performance as not satisfactory on this occasion. Okay. So normally, I know you don't have to worry, but you need to understand the ABCs, yeah, and how they work. Yeah. A, activating event, uh, and the belief, how you perceive the activating event leads to the C. A doesn't cause the C. When somebody says so and so make me angry, they're talking about A causing the C. Okay. So usually we distinguish healthy and unhealthy negative emotion. Yeah. How do we determine the emotion experience is healthy or unhealthy? People will say, "Hey, I was depressed, or I was anxious, or I was angry." Yeah, and they think as though they shouldn't have felt this emotion. But what we do is we assess that emotion, yeah, and we assess the actions and behaviors they engage in, yeah, and we also assess the beliefs, yeah, and the cognitive consequences. The beliefs, in the sense that we will assess whether what's going on in the head with this person, is it irrational or rational belief? Meaning, is it preferential belief or is it dogmatic, rigid kind of belief? Yeah, that will give us an indication. Yeah, but certainly assessing the actions and behaviors. Yeah, somebody, for instance, who is anxious, yeah, and not uh, getting help, don't want to see the lecturers, avoiding class. Those are actions of an anxious student who is actually suffering from anxiety. A student who comes, talks about it, problem solves, and finds out what they need to do and prepare. Yeah, and they are concerned. They're not anxious. Yeah, so that's how we assess. Yeah, we look at the emotion itself. Yeah, we look at their actions and their behaviors and see whether they are furthering their interest. Yeah. If people who are unhealthy, whose emotion is unhealthy, their actions and their thoughts will make their situation worse usually. Yeah. They cannot help themselves. If somebody who's depressed, yeah, whatever they do, whatever action they perform, or whatever they think will usually be self-sabotage. Yeah, because their the thinking is irrational. Yeah, they will be self-sabotage. Yeah, okay. But when the action is helpful, they are trying to problem solve. Yeah, so their emotion is negative but healthy. Yeah, okay. Usually that's how we assess, yeah, what is healthy or unhealthy. But of course, in most situations, you can see straight away the emotion is unhealthy. Yeah. Okay. Then we have to work with them. We have to assess properly, and we will work with them to help them. But if we assess and decide that this emotion is healthy, yeah, negative but healthy, they don't need therapy. Yeah. Okay. They don't need therapy. So they just need to have somebody to talk to. Yeah. And they'll compose themselves and they can get on with their lives. Yeah. Okay. They're experiencing negative emotion given the lousy situation, but the emotion is healthy negative. Yeah. Okay. They're just sad and probably very profoundly sad, but they're not depressing themselves given what has happened to the activating events. Yeah. Okay. Okay, folks. I've been talking continuously. Can I sort of stop share and get you to ask any questions, anything you want to check, anything you want to discuss?
Nothing for me, so
Hamza, say it again.
I was saying I have no questions.
You have no question. Okay, good. Anybody? No, ask away, please. Yeah, engage and check because it's important you get the basic understanding right. Yeah, you need to know this, especially the ABC. Navya, any questions?
No, doctor.
You haven't got any questions? Hey,
No, doctor.
okay, okay. If you got
Yeah.
no questions, don't worry. But
Yeah.
I think you must have the opportunity to ask and check.
Yeah, sure, sure. I will if I have anything.
Okay, good, good. Anybody else? John Wei, you with us? Okay, if you haven't got any questions, what I'll do is I'll quickly go back to the screen share and just wrap up where we've got to. Now, where am I? It's not where it should be. Okay. So you see, you have an activating event. Yeah, it can be anything, like I said, you can focus on. You can focus on the weather. Yeah. And then you say, my God, it's going to rain, and I've got my laundry out, drying in outside. Yeah. Okay. I have to get, you have certain thoughts about it. Yeah. So what I'm saying is activating event can be just about anything. Yeah. But of course, we don't get disturbed about every activating event. Yeah. If the event is personally significant, yeah, like for instance, failing an exam, or your boyfriend they're not turning up at the meeting or whatever, yeah, okay, anything that's personally significant will trigger the inference you make about the event, yeah, just like say for instance, I don't know, I'll give you an example. For instance, I can be, this is many years ago, on Malaysian roads, I will get quite worked up. People drive, but, they were not very considerate the way they drive. Yeah. So what happens is that I used to get worked out, yeah, about it. So by the time I go to class, I'm quite not relaxed anymore, Okay. So I have to do something about it. So the A is the activating event. Yeah. I'm saying to myself initially, the RB is rational belief, IB is irrational belief. Yeah. The irrational belief in my head was saying, these stupid people, why do they behave like this? Yeah. Okay. Why is he, driving so carelessly or cutting so close or pulling inside without indicating and stuff like that? And because I'm dogmatic, rigid, I'm applying what's in my head to the activating event. I'm perceiving, interpreting the event in a particular way. I experience unhealthy consequence, which is anger. Yeah. Okay. I'm angry. Yeah, I'm saying the driver, that lousy, stupid driver, is making me angry. Yeah. Okay. That I'm not recognizing that it is my irrational belief that makes me angry. Yeah. Okay. So what I had to do is say to myself, hey, that guy, it's nothing personal. He's probably a decent chap. If I got to know him, he's just a lousy driver. Yeah. I'm not happy, but I'm not angry as a consequence. Yeah. Okay. So the switching, in being aware what I'm doing to myself, yeah, I can now, yeah, be comfortable in Malaysian road on Malaysian roads. I don't disturb myself. If people want to, cut in, I'll always give them space. No problem. You go ahead. That's okay. Because I think of the driver as a reasonable person. They're usually quite pleasant and decent. They're just not so good on the roads. That's all. Yeah. I don't have to get worked up about it. So whether I was angry or whether I'm quite a little bit annoyed but not angry, it's within my control. Yeah. Now, when you're working with patients, patients start seeing a choice. Yeah. It is not automatic anymore. Yeah. My manager behaves badly. I used to get angry. Now I have a choice. Yeah. I can think about it slightly differently. Yeah. Because you see, the rest of the team don't get angry. Only I get angry. Yeah. I don't need to do this to myself. Yeah. So this person can learn how to think about the manager's behavior, and her emotional quality gets a little bit better. Okay. Now that is the basic kind of outline. Yeah. Okay. Look, let's leave things there. Can I sort of let me just drop that. Yeah. Stop share.